Dun 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 dun! It is time for another collection of poetry. And I am really excited this week to share this collection of poetry with you. It is Water Puppets by Quan Barry. But the really cool part is that I filled out an online form through the Alexandria Library System and requested that they purchase a copy of this book, and they actually did. Power to the people. So Quan Barry was born in Vietnam, but she grew up in America, and a lot of her poems are influenced by this culture clash. This tends to be more abstract than personal, though. Her work isn't really about an individual immigrant experience, but she uses different cultural elements to reveal new ideas. In this book, she explores how war always fragments into infinitely personal moments, including her own relationship to the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. I wasn't necessarily against the use of force, she writes, though I never believed in the existence of WMDs. And belief is complicated in this book. It means intention and effort. It means struggle. That's why the concept of Vietnamese water poetry referenced in the title fits so well. Because puppetry is about belief on so many levels. There's the illusion of the puppets moving on their own, while they're actually being controlled by rods underwater. And there's also the relationship between storytelling and truth, how it sometimes takes a fiction to reveal a more complicated truth about ourselves or about humanity. But how long are we supposed to suspend our disbelief? How do we know when to change our minds about something? How do we know to shift gears, to tell a different story than the one we've always been telling ourselves about the way the world works? These questions are fluid. If they're answerable at all, it would probably be on a case-to-case basis, not in any broad terms. At least in this collection, the core of this ideological predicament is about the relationship between creation and destruction. In one of my favorite poems of this collection called Arsenal, Barry writes about the sea kayak traverse of the Antarctic Peninsula. There, in the endless blue ice, the same ocean pushes through. That is to say, because the Earth is round, the end of the Earth is also its beginning. This idea also comes up in Meditations. Meditations is a much longer poem full of news fragments that Barry pieces together, drawing her own connections and bringing up bits of her own personal insight. I love this piece especially because Barry does some of her best work in long-form poetry. It's where she really gives herself the space to do some profound ethical thinking. Right after she admits her own small piece of guilt about the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, she writes, "Happily, the Kurna marshes along the Tigris-Euphrates are beginning to heal. The waters formerly drained by Saddam in an act of retribution for the Marsh Arabs' 1991 uprising. Archaeologists believe the marshes may be the historical location of the Garden of Eden." I can't help but think all that beauty and meaning makes the marshes at once the most absurd place for a war and yet the most utterly natural. Bound up in her cultural history as a woman born in Vietnam and raised in America, Barry explores the nature of her own small corner of guilt in this collection, and how we can all go on thinking a lot of ungenerous things until something profoundly knocks us back into our senses. Ooh, that was Water Puppets, and I'll see you next week on Brave Little Books.